Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for once again joining me as we look to the horizon. Back with another writing vlog update for you. And first off, Burning Bright is on page 27, about 2/3 of the way through. Now, for those of you keeping score at home, at the beginning of last week, I was at page 15 and at the very top. I wanted to be at page 18 and doing about 10 pages a week. So I have caught up most of the way. I hope to get to page 30 this week and then do about 10 pages a week until I'm done. We'll see how that works out. This is turning out to be a little bit lengthier than I had expected. I'm doing a lot more world building in the prose than I had thought I would. This is partly just because everything seems to flow better when I'm outlining, and when I get down into the nitty gritty, I realize maybe I needed a little more space to handle everything I wanted to. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe 100 pages at the end of the day handwritten rather than 80, which is what I was originally thinking. We'll see. This is part of the exploration process of getting your story down on the page. So I think it's going pretty well, other than underestimating how much space I would need to say everything I needed to say. I really haven't had a lot of hiccups. Really just one, and it was very short. I had about 20 minutes of writer's block where I just stared at a page and drummed my fingers and thought, how am I going to say this? How am I going to get all this out without boring someone to tears? And I think it came out pretty well, partly because I cut some of it, which I am always willing to do when the story is in motion. Always be willing to cut, be very hesitant to add. First rule of writing, Nate Chen. Just a thought. So that's coming along. And really, that's all I have to say about that. It is unfolding well. It is not done anything surprising. It's not turning out to be a story other than what I thought it was going to be. And you know, sometimes things just unspool. I actually find that the more I work on my outlining game, the more used I get to my own creative process, the more tailored it is to me, the fewer surprises there are, which is good and not so good. I do admit some of the thrill of finding something I hadn't thought about was fun and nice to have. I don't have as much of it now, which is kind of disappointing, but it does let me get back to the conceptual area, which is what I really enjoy, you know, thinking up new stories, working out characters and story beats and world building and all that other stuff. It lets me get back to that faster, and that's a positive. And it sounds strange, but the more I do this, the more the work is in the conceptualizing, in the setting the beats, in the forming the outline, and the actual writing everything out and getting everything in order and revised is the work part of the process and not the part where a lot of the discovery happens. Hopefully, I don't get too much farther down this spectrum. I think it might become very difficult to keep writing if I do. Fingers crossed. I think this is part of why actually I have found visual storytelling so appealing to me in the last 3 or 4 years. It just gives me an extra part of the exploration and the excitement to get into. And there's still plenty of drudgery and really just putting in the work to get the story out, as any artist will tell you. But there's a lot more excitement to it, I think, than in just doing prose for me right now. And I don't know, it definitely gives that outlet. And also working on script writing has really given that outlet to keep me engaged in the storytelling process. So hopefully, switching back and forth between that and regular prose writing will give me enough variety that I don't face that killer artist boredom, which can really put a crimp in your ability to enjoy telling stories, which you have to do, I think, if you're going to maintain a dedicated and passionate audience. So, moving on, I have gotten feedback on the final part of Night Train to Hardwick. Not a whole lot of surprises there. The biggest one is I've been reminded, once again, that I am not the best at establishing what the setting looks like and giving good descriptions that let people build a scene in their mind's eye. I've tried to get better at it. I think I have gotten better at it over time, but it's definitely a skill that I need to work more on mastering. And I think writing comic scripts has helped with that, because you do if you are writing for an artist, if you're not going to do it yourself, you do really have to describe all that. And I think that for me, I tend to see things in my mind's eye with a little less detail in the background and a lot more detail in the foreground than most people do. A lot of people are obsessed with like broad, sweeping landscape shots, and I am more interested in tight, intimate still lifes visually. So the background can be something I struggle with. Maybe it's just because I am naturally nearsighted. There's quite a prescription in these things. Who can say? Maybe it's just part of temperament and personality. These things are hard to work out sometimes. That said, I think that I will be able to put out Night Train to Hardwick fairly smoothly in the next couple of weeks. And I plan to start, I keep saying this, but I plan to start recording a reading of it for you guys in the near future. Life has been kind of hectic, but I'm working on it. It is in the background. I'm working on illustrations for it. There are not going to be as many illustrations as there were in Fire Spinner. I'm going to just have basically one illustration per segment. I don't really know how much those added to the viewing experience, to be perfectly honest. It is mostly about the audiobook approach. So hopefully y'all will enjoy that, even though it's not going to be quite the feast for the eyes that it was in the past. And that's pretty much the entire writing update, I think. I have continued to work on Everyone Likes to Laugh. I haven't put as much time into it because I was trying to get caught up on Burning Bright, but I have about another page of world building done there, and I think I am about ready to start the outline. And this is going to be a bit tricky because I'm less confident in my cyberpunk world building as opposed to my space opera style world building or my fantasy world building. So I think I'm going to need to take a little more time as I go through that and really consider the implications more, because I'm not as used to thinking about these kinds of corporate espionage or police investigatory type gadgets as I am about FTL drives and things like that. So I think the writing, or at least the outlining process, is going to go slower there. I think I'm going to have to continue to refine and hone the world building as I do that to a greater extent than I normally do. And it's a bit of a daunting process, but I'm looking forward to it. It is, again, the part where I feel like I do the most creative exploration in storytelling now. So, yeah, I am looking forward to that. I'm not really ready to talk a whole lot more about that story until I get some beats down on paper and I really have an idea of what the story is, what its main emotional and narrative thrusts are. And when I have those, I think I will talk about it more. Hopefully, I'm not tantalizing you too much with talks of this story. But those are my projects as they stand right now. I'm looking forward to closing the book on Night Train to Hardwick, not because it was long and difficult, but just because there are new things ahead. And hopefully you will enjoy reading it or eventually listening to it as it is ready for your consumption. Anyway, that's what I've got for you this week. There is a like button and a subscribe button down below you can use as you see fit. Let me know what you think of having just one image on the audio story readings, or if you would be fine with maybe just a title page that gives the name of the chapter. I'll talk to you later.